Hi, everyone. Welcome to Guardian Recovery Live. I am your host, Kevin Michael Isaac. Thank you all for tuning in this evening. I am really excited about tonight's guest. She is a total rock star, Kerry MacDonald. She is a Plymouth House alumni, also currently serving as Executive Director of Pine Tree Recovery Center up in Portland, Maine, and also CuraWest, which is out in Denver, Colorado, Guardian's newest facility. So we are extremely grateful for her. She's actually coming in live from CuraWest out in Colorado. So we're going to get right to it and bring in Kerry. Hi, Kerry.
Hello.
How are we doing?
Doing all right.
Doing good tonight. You saw the whole pre-stage drama.
I did take a couple photos of the drama. Really? Yep. Oh. If I could share them here, that would be awesome.
Oh, that is so player. I am so glad you did that. That is right out of my playbook, because then that becomes like perfect ammunition.
Yep.
So luckily you can't share them here. But
you're right.
I was looking desperately for photos of you from back in your heyday at Brockton High School in your softball days, and I was going to share it. So I guess that's what you get for, you give people ammo, they can get you back.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, thank you so much for hopping on tonight. I know you're busy and you're out in Colorado at our newest facility, CuraWest, but I know you have such a great story of recovery, and you've been a staple in the recovery community for a long time, and you've been through it all. You've been at Plymouth House, Pine Tree, and now also out at CuraWest. So I'm interested to learn about that a little bit. But who are you today? I kind of been asking people that question. Who are you today?
That's a great question. One of my favorite lines in the big book, where it talks about being a fine specimen, so a person that you can rely on. Absolutely. I'd like to believe, if you ask the people in my life, that would be what they'd say. So I have a very full life. My words align with my actions. I live out in Portland, Maine. I have a wife and a house and a business. That's good.
Everything that you were promised, almost, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And more.
And more.
Better than my wildest dreams. Yeah.
And it's so true, but so corny, when you probably have said it to people. I know I've said it to people, but if you've made yourself a list of when you first got sober of everything you wanted, you'd sell yourself so short.
Yep.
And I know that's true in my life. It's, it's blessing after blessing after miracle. And, I think you feel the same way that I do, that, being just a small part of someone's recovery is a privilege that we shouldn't take lightly. And it's the heartbeat of what we do and what allows us to stay sober.
I totally agree.
So I want to backtrack a little bit back to your days at the City of Champions, Brockton. So you grew up in Brockton.
Yep.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Kind of just, what your earlier days were like, and kind of family life and all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up, my family was great, supportive. To sort of weave that in with my story of recovery, what I would say, and what I often say, is the first time I heard someone talk to me about the disease of addiction, and they described it as a feeling, if you feel restlessness, irritability, discontent, we call it RID. I felt that, like, that's how I felt. I think I came out of the womb RIDful, actually. So I learned pretty early on in my life that I discovered I was a pretty good athlete. And when they talk about the solution that you get from drinking, like, it just kind of, for the moment, you feel like you're okay. That's how I felt on the ball field. And that's as early as like 4 years old. And so that became my solution for, the greater part of my youth and through college and even after. And so, I played Junior Olympics. I thought I was going to be an Olympian. So my childhood was really driven by athletics. And I was lucky enough to have a family who supported that and traveled with us. And I have a younger sibling, two younger siblings, a brother and a sister. I'm now a proud auntie. I grew up in the city of Champs. I'm a product of the Brockton school system.
You're a Brockton boxer.
That's right. I went off to University of Connecticut, played softball out there.
What were there any like, did mom, dad, anyone else in your family struggle kind of, or were you the kind of outlier, the lone duck?
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I have a strong family history of.
You got the good MacDonald name.
That's right. You got it. Good Irish Catholic, sort of thing going on. A lot of addiction in my extended family, maybe even my immediate family.
So when were you, like, how old were you when you first started drinking? Was it in high school? Was it before that?
I was in high school.
High school?
Out at the ball field after school.
That's that is a spot where I think a lot of us.
Yep.
So did it progressively get worse through high school? Did it affect your performance?
Yeah.
Did it affect your grades? Like,
yeah, I mean, it from the moment I took my first drink, like I chased that. Luckily being a competitive athlete playing at that level, because that was a priority, my disease of addiction really didn't fully form until I went off to college. And, when I played ball at UConn, I realized like there's a lot of other people who are really talented athletes, and like I have a good alcoholic ego, so like I thought I was the best,
especially at UConn, that is a breeding ground of great athletes.
Exactly. So, my solution, my identity sort of as an athlete changed, and that's when my use really picked up, and it totally interfered. It caused me to transfer out of that school, and it then progressed from substance to substance and got in the way of my professional life. And
What position did you play?
I was a pitcher.
Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still pitch?
I can try.
I think I could take you deep, even back in your heyday.
Everybody says that, but then you get up there and whiz one right by you.
I don't know. I really, I've always wanted to try it. When I lived in Fresno, there was a girl. She was like, it's going to kill me her name, but she was like an unbelievable Amanda. She was an unbelievable pitcher. And I thought I could take her deep, but I never got the opportunity.
Can you hit a knuckleball?
Like a Phil Necro knuckleball?
That's my jam, yeah.
Come on. You can do that as...
That's like my bread and butter. That's probably why I was recruited to play there, yeah.
So if I bring a bat and a ball up next time I come to Pine Tree, can we try it out in the parking lot?
You got it.
We'll have Aronson as the catcher?
Yeah.
It will be epic. We'll have the clients watching from the window.
That'd be awesome.
And I'll rip one right down Bishop. Either that or I'll throw out my back and I'll be on the ground missing it.
Yeah, exactly.
I got a funny feeling you might throw some chin music.
I could.
Get me off.
Yeah.
So you get through, you end up graduating college, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of take us through the next couple of years of what that looked like and kind of where it took you.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, that solution sort of went away when I realized like my identity as an athlete was sort of shattered. It was like a life-changing moment for me. And from there, I searched for literally any solution, whether it's substance abuse, whether it was an eating disorder, which I then became very interested in nutrition. And then, I had a pretty significant eating disorder. Um, and I graduated. I went out, became a registered dietitian, interestingly enough. Worked my first job at a hospital, then gradually progressed into management in hospital administration. And, I just, my alcoholism, or what then became a drug addiction, really became problematic to where I would have to take leaves of absences. And then when I came back, I couldn't hold it together. So I was really in and out of treatment the better part of like 2 years straight, until I found someone who just kind of showed up in my life talking all this craziness about the steps. And I thought it was like, this total like thing that people just say. I didn't realize like it was an actual thing you did. And so she told me about the Plymouth House. She had been to the Plymouth House. She talked me into going for 2 weeks. And I, called my family. I said, hey, I want to go to the Plymouth House. I know I've been missing for a number of weeks now, and you haven't heard from me, and the state police are looking for me. Meanwhile, I'm living at, by the way, the Great Bay Motel in Falmouth, Massachusetts, which,
So, I mean, you're doing pretty well if you're at the Great Bay.
right? It's not great, nor is it by the bay.
No.
So, yeah.
So at that point too, so you were already had come down to the Cape. You've had a couple failed
Mhm.
attempts,
Yep.
going through other treatment programs.
Mm-hmm.
So you pick up the phone, you call your family, you ask them to throw you a lifeline.
Yep.
And they send you up to the Plymouth House, right?
No, they said no.
Oh.
They said no. It was probably the first moment of the rest of my life. My family stopped enabling me. They said, no, you're going to have to figure it out. So I got a credit card. I had my tax refund. I had an engagement ring. I was engaged to be married, which that wasn't going to happen. So I was willing to sell my engagement ring. At that point, I just, was like curled up in a ball in the fetal position, like wanting to die and like not having the courage to do it. So I got myself, to the Plymouth House, and
That's
yeah.
awesome. You don't hear much of that,
Mm-hmm.
especially people with so much skin in the game, because
Mm-hmm.
you got yourself there, and then a lot of times we've just run it into the ground until there's nothing left.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about your experience a little bit at the Plymouth House and what that was like.
Yeah. So I rolled up to the Plymouth House, and by that time I had been like, a well-seasoned in the treatment industry. So I said to my friend who drove me up there, I was like, I totally got this. Like I'm an all-star at treatment. I can like clean up quick. I'm like a strong starter and a weak finisher. So I get out there, I look good. I'm like, I got this great presence, and like, I wow everybody. And I show up at the intake office, and I'm like, I totally got this. And my friend Linda was like, hey, this isn't that kind of place. Like, you're not, like, this is going to be work,
Little did you know, right?
Yeah, little did I know. So my my time at the Plymouth House, my first week, we went through the big book. I learned a lot about myself, which is interesting because I thought I had myself pretty well figured out. I had a moment probably, it was right around like my 4th day there, when we were like reading page 25 of the big book, where it was like, hey, you got like 2 choices. Like, you can go on to the bitter end, or you can accept spiritual help. And I was like, I'm the person in the background who's like, raise my hand. And I'm like, well, what's behind door number 3? Because like neither of those options sound good, And they were like, there's no door number 3. It's like this or that, And so I had this like sinking feeling in my gut. And I realized this was going to be a problem because this whole God thing, I don't know if it, like, I'm Catholic and I've been praying and I went to church and I memorized the 3rd-step prayer, the 7th-step prayer, the 11th-step prayer. Like, I've been saying those, it's not working. So, like, I was pretty skeptical. So I'd say like the biggest thing that stood out to me at that time is I kind of looked around, and I saw the people that worked there and I saw the people that, had been there a while, and they just looked happy. They seemed different than the people that I had met before. And if I'm being completely honest, they like seemed really cool. And that was my life goal, to like try to be cool, So I was like, maybe if I do this, I can be cool too.
You and I are both still trying, right?
Yeah, still trying. Yeah. And so it went from like a 2-week stay to a 4-month stay. And then I moved up to Portland against my better judgment. I moved up to Portland.
So how did you kind of overcome that? I don't want to call it aversion, but I mean, I guess it kind of is that aversion to a God or a higher power. Mm-hmm. How did you finally work through that?
Yeah. So it was sort of like this, the way it was explained to me, and I, talk to people about this now, which is like this equation of belief plus action equals faith. And the belief part of that is like, do you believe, someone stood in front of me and said, do you believe that I'm better? Do you believe that I live a life that makes sense? And I said, yeah, like the evidence is standing in front of me. And they said, well, I believe that this is a spiritual path, and maybe it's not God, but maybe it's something, that some higher power, some like energy, some source. So if you believe it works for me, like maybe just take some action. So I believed that it worked for somebody else. And then I took the action of, of course I paid for some of that stay, and like I had some skin in the game. So I worked really hard. And then I literally just did the next thing I was asked to do. I was asked to show up at meditation. I did that. I was asked to take a 3rd-step prayer. I did that even though I had no idea what it meant. I wrote an inventory. I read it. I just kept doing the action. And then I woke up like 6 months sober, probably like in the most pain I had been in my life. And I did the action and I did what I was told to do. Talked to my I did the whole thing. I wrote the inventory. I did everything I was supposed to do. And then a few months later, I woke up one day and realized I had faith, meaning for the first time in my life, I got through something hard and I didn't rely on a substance, or I didn't do something that I shouldn't have been doing. And I woke up and I realized, okay, well, like this is actually an example in my life. And I had plenty of small like examples along the way of like feeling relieved of the desire to drink or use, which was not something I had ever experienced before.
When you were going through that, you said the pain, was it emotional pain, physical pain?
Emotional pain. Yeah.
It's the worst type of pain.
Yep. Yeah. Soul sucking, like, considering throwing myself off the Casco Bay Bridge type of pain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've done that.
Yep.
So you talked about, so I think it's important to kind of touch on that, because I think a lot of people struggle with that, with a higher power, just kind of wrapping their heads around it. And I know for a lot of people in the beginning, and I think what you did, and there's an acronym, God, good, orderly direction, mm-hmm. If you can kind of just get out of your own way and take some suggestions and believe that, the people that have come before you have gone through this and mm-hmm. works, and you have the evidence right in front of you. You see them living healthy, fulfilling lives. And, if you can just take those suggestions and mm-hmm. Keep putting one foot in front of the other, all will be well.
Yep.
So 6 months, how long did you stay in the sober house in Portland?
18 months.
Wow, you were a long timer.
Mm-hmm.
You must have been a little sicker than most.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah.
We should give a shout out too to Payson, Washington Ave, and
Yep.
Beacon Street.
That's right.
Tuning in live. Hello, everyone. And so eventually you end up going back to Plymouth House to work, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit and that experience?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll start with saying that I think I realized, like, around that time that I kind of got through that hard thing, I realized that I wanted to help people. And it's sort of like it was my calling, so to speak. So once I moved out of the sober house, I got a call and they said, "Hey, do you want to come out here and help run our admissions department?" And I said, "Yes, I do. I absolutely do. And I've been wanting to do this since I left." So I went out to Plymouth. It was probably, one of the greatest privileges of my life. Yeah.
It's such a. So I remember too when I went through Gosnell, then I went to the TSS, and then when I was 11 months sober, I went back there to work, and not that you put people on a pedestal, but you look up to these people, and they've loved on you, they've poured into you, and while you're in that environment, while you're in treatment, and you just kind of see it, and then to go back to it on the other end of it, where now you're in that position to love on people and to pour into them and be a part of helping other people recover. I remember for the first couple of months, every day I went in, it was like I had to pinch myself. It was just this, overwhelming gratitude just to kind of be on the other side of it. But more importantly, have the opportunity to carry a message.
Yep. Yeah. And, some of the greatest job satisfaction I ever got and still get is seeing people get well.
It's the best thing ever, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if you see this, and not that you're it's always the ones you never think.
Oh, yeah. So resistant. So, yeah.
And I've fallen, not that you're but when you're working with people, especially in the, you're like, I don't know, or the ones that are gung ho and they're
yeah.
And it's always the grinders, the ones that just grind it out and stick with it. And, the ones that clean up quick and get the new pair of Chuck Taylors and fresh haircut, This is the best advice I ever got. Pray for a slow recovery.
Yeah. Indeed.
And 18 years later, it's still pretty slow. How long did you work at the Plymouth House?
I worked for the Plymouth House for about 10 years.
Wow.
Yep. I was out in Plymouth, and I would say that sense of gratitude and watching people get well, helping people, wanting, having people want the help and having the families count on you. And, eventually I moved from admissions to working with clients and running groups. And eventually the Plymouth House opened extended care programs out in Portland. And I went out there and opened the Walton House program, and then Payson, and now Washington Ave. And recently moved over to Pine Tree, although I've been part of the Pine Tree staff and family since they've opened, but I recently moved over to Pine Tree in July of this past year.
What are some of the biggest mistakes you made in early recovery?
Relationships. Yep. Yeah. Relationships for sure.
Mine was cardboard crack.
What's that?
The scratch tickets.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That will get you.
You
never heard that term before?
No. It's weird because I'm from Massachusetts too.
Totally. That's like the ultimate scratch ticket.
I know.
Cardboard crack. That's what we call
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
So relationships.
Relationships. Yep. And then powerlessness over my relationship to food in my body. But that was sort of not something that was a mistake. It just was beyond my control.
One of the things I found myself, especially early, even like the first 5 or 6 years, was, and sponsoring guys and working with people and picking them up for meetings. And, I would always get into this place where I cared more about it than they did.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to drag them.
Yep.
Can you speak to that at all? Did you have that same experience?
I had a few of those. Experiences. And I didn't always realize it when it was happening until I was resentful. That they weren't doing what I was suggesting they did, like suggesting that they do.
Yeah, they're oblivious, and we're all resentful.
Yeah. I'm all mad, and they're just like, yeah. So I would say that was definitely, yeah, that's a good one. Also, like my approach, I was pretty no nonsense, so I didn't have, the ability to kind of speak to people based on where they're at. So I was kind of like one speed all the time. And that I sort of, ran into myself over and over with that.
Do you feel like you've been able to adapt that?
Yeah.
You can meet people more where they're at and kind of adapt your approach?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think, for those of us working in recovery, I think that you have to,
Mm-hmm.
There's a wrench for every nut.
Yep.
And I mean that in a loving way.
Yeah.
Some people, need the kid gloves. Some people need
Mm-hmm.
you to be direct with them. So it's always interesting working with people, just trying to kind of figure out
Mm-hmm.
what approach is going to work best for them.
Mm-hmm.
How's your experience been with Guardian and now taking on
Mm-hmm.
the full-time executive director role at Pine Tree and also CuraWest?
It's been a really great experience. And I'm not just saying that because we're on a Guardian platform. Really, the support that I receive from nearly everybody in the organization has been outstanding, especially transitioning into a new role. It was great. The support, the resources to help people has been great. Yeah.
I love it's crystal clear. I had the opportunity to work on the other end of it, being a referent that sent people to Guardian, and you kind of knew the quality of care, but being on the other side of it, just
Mm-hmm.
seeing that hyper commitment to really doing everything that we possibly can to
Mm-hmm.
give people the best opportunity to recover and keep them safe.
Yep.
It's such
Yeah. One of the things I think is pretty cool is not only, whatever facility that I end up going to or talking to people, like everybody is it's like one big team, which is really cool. And in a way, it feels like a big extended family, which is what it was at Plymouth House. So I really like that. It's like a big company, a big family. So I really like that a lot.
and everything leads back to the Plymouth House. You got Isaiah, and
Mm-hmm.
we were doing the math with someone, but obviously there's been a lot of programs that have opened up in New England, and I think we counted 15 of them were all Plymouth House alumni,
Mm-hmm.
which speaks volumes just to the quality and the reputation and just the footprint of people that they've helped all across New England.
Yep.
So I know. So when you went through Plymouth House too, there was just the 12-step retreat. You got the immersion in the big book.
Yep.
And now they've added the clinical component to it,
Mm-hmm.
which I love because I think, as people in recovery, especially in a role where we're taking people through step work,
Mm-hmm.
usually stuff is going to come up that we are ill-equipped to handle.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that the 12-step contact and the therapist work as a team, because as stuff comes up in the writing, then the therapist is able to address it at a clinical level, and also, vice versa. If the therapist is seeing something, 12-step contact may be able to offer a different approach or guidance to help that person. Can you talk about what you've seen so far from that combination of the clinical and the 12-step?
Absolutely. I'll say the experience that I talked about earlier when I was 6 months sober, I happened to be motivated and have enough of had enough of an experience up till that point to motivate me to continue to search for solutions to what I was feeling. However, had I had that built in at the time, that would have been really helpful for me, to have someone to say, oh, hey, go do this thing right here. But in seeing, the acuity of the clients that have come through, even the extended care programs over the last 5 years, having a clinical team there to support the work and doing a really good job of marrying the 12-step philosophy with the clinical philosophy that Guardian has, is really, those ingredients, if you put them together, in my opinion, have, made the recipe come out really well.
Absolutely. And it's opened it to a wider population of people. Now people are able to utilize their insurance, and you also have the medical staff there. So it's, what are you most grateful for?
It's hard to pick one because I have so many.
Give me the top three.
The top three.
Make it easy on you.
I would say family, including my wife. I would say that. I'm also extremely grateful for timing. So I say that because nearly every step of my journey has been a result of good timing. The people that I was in treatment with, the people that I lived in the sober house with, the opportunities that have come up along the way. So I'm grateful for sort of the good timing that's happened in my life. I'm also extremely grateful for the community that I live in.
Yeah. And I know you experienced a little bit, but where I live down in Falmouth, they're kind of very similar recovery-oriented communities. And it really is a blessing to be part of it, just because, there's always an influx of new people, which is the lifeblood of what we do. Got time for one more question. Do you like the Italian kitchen in Brockton?
Oh, come on. Is that even a question?
How good is that place?
That place is great.
I drew a blank when I was getting ready. I was like, the name.
Yeah, I grew up on the Italian kitchen.
They really have the best meatballs I've ever had.
The sauce,
the meatballs, the bread, the ravioli is unbelievable. Chicken parm is good.
Yep.
I might have to, next time I come to Pine Tree.
You're going to bring some Italian kitchen?
Yeah.
Love it.
What's your favorite now?
I'd say definitely the sauce and the ziti is my favorite.
Just ziti and sauce?
Yeah.
Are you always that plain? You seem a little more.
I'm mostly vegetarian. I do eat like meat sometimes. So if you brought meatballs, I would definitely eat them.
Really?
Yeah.
Vegetarian some of the time, or most of
the time. They have a name for it, but I don't want to be a hipster, flexitarian.
Flexitarian?
Yeah.
That sounds like a name that's just kind of like made up to kind of wrap your head around that you want to straddle both sides of the fence.
Yep, I want to do what I want to do.
Totally.
Yep.
That should be a new like recovery term. Flexitarian. I'm gonna take some of this and I'm gonna take some of that, and
Yep. You know this conversation is going to come back to haunt me, right?
really.
Yeah, I know my friend Mike Morris is going to give me hell, calling me a flexitarian.
Why, you've disclosed that to him before?
No, but he's probably watching this right now.
Yo, and him and I are cut from the same cloth, and if
Yeah.
I picked up on it, like, what the hell is that? Then he's gonna be all over you. He could be a flexitarian, though. I had lunch with him the other day. He had a kind of
He was playing too?
yeah, and he didn't eat much. He's a big guy,
Yeah, I know.
and I'm 5'7", 185, and I'm eating all the nachos, and he's like
Did you get
6'4".
a peanut butter and jelly?
No, he got a chicken sandwich,
Yeah.
a grilled chicken sandwich. Well, that just about brings us to the end. I really want to thank you. You are an all-star. You are a blessing to Guardian. You're a blessing to those of us in recovery. And I'm glad that you were able to join us live from CuraWest out in Denver, Colorado, where we're going to be opening up residential soon, right?
You got it. Yep.
And we'll also be in network with Blue Cross and Cigna.
I think
You're not
it's
gonna back
Aetna.
me up on that.
Yeah, Aetna. I think.
So, and it's a beautiful facility attached
yeah.
to the Porter Adventist Hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and same quality care and love and support as all the Guardian facilities. But thank you so much,
Mm-hmm.
and thank you all for tuning in. And we will
Thanks for
see
having
you
me.
next week. Have a great night.